This is a Flying Cow production.
Well, hello and welcome back to Must Watch Movies here on The Flying Cow. I, of course, am your host, The Flying Cow himself, and here with me, as always, is my co-host slash special guest, as he insists on being called, the two-time Teddy Award winning Lord Jack Allison, the good boy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. Clay, you look like you're doing great. Are those the new Doc Martens?
Yeah. I'm sporting a new look. I'm wearing shoes on my head. It's it's a good day.
I'm glad you're wearing them on your head because, like, folks, like at home, I know this is like an audio platform, but you have no idea how good it is. Like, I get to see Clay's feet on every episode.
Yeah,
it's pretty swell.
Yeah. No, actually, right now I'm living in a cloud. Sorry about that, but otherwise,
Aren't we
all? Yeah. You know what? There are times when I think it would be a better place to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm more of a PC guy myself, but to each their own. Oh, sweet! I just got my virtual background up. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, eyebrows are cut off.
So,
all right.
Yeah. What is that? For those who, I mean, nobody gets to see the video anymore, unfortunately. But Jack always likes to change his background to something interesting.
Why not?
What do you have going on there, Jack?
Let me just say this. Again, I'm not spoiling anything because, like, this is like you you have to. This gives like the audience, like, I gotta like let their imagination do the filling in. But seriously, like, if you've worked in corporate office, all of you understand the magic of having customizable backgrounds.
Yeah,
it's just But yeah, we talked about a movie this week. I think
we did.
I assume we talked about it this week.
I mean, we usually do, considering this is a movie podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, we changed it up and decided to talk about one today.
Yeah. A movie that you picked.
But yes, a movie that I picked. One of, as I said, my all-time favorites, especially in the realm of comedy. And this is 1972's What's Up, Doc, directed by Peter Bogdanovich, starring Barbra Streisand, Ryan O'Neal, Kenneth Mars, Madeline Kahn, Austin Pendleton, and many, many more. And like I said, this is, a screwball comedy in kind of the tradition of like a Bringing Up Baby type of thing. And in fact, I think Bringing Up Baby was a direct inspiration for this. And I mean, I'll just be honest. When I heard that, because, every once in a while I like looking things up about movies, even ones that I've seen a bunch of times. And I saw Bringing Up Baby as one of the inspirations for this movie. So I had the opportunity to watch it a few years ago. And I like this, I prefer this movie, partially because, yes, I grew up on this and I watched it first, but for me, the jokes land better. It's crisper. It's a little bit, at least more memorable in to me. But this is, like I said, it's a screwball comedy. It's a kind of a farce, and the whole premise is that there are the very first thing you see is text on, once the credits end, is text on the screen screen that says, "Once upon a time, there was a plaid overnight case," and you end up discovering that there are actually 4 that look exactly the same, but they all 4 have different things in them, and comedy ensues from there. But Jack, this is a film that you had never seen.
Mm-mm.
And one of the reasons, besides that it's one of my favorites, for us watching this is because you wanted to watch more Peter Bogdanovich. So did you know anything about this film coming in? What did you know about it previously, and what did you think about it?
The only thing I knew of it was that it was, I believe, the debut of Madeline Kahn.
Yes.
Aside from that, really, no, I didn't know much aside from like the IMDb description. Again, I knew like Barbara Streisand was in this. But I really didn't know much more about it than that. I had seen, I'm blanking the other Peter Bogdanovich film. I saw one of his other films that escaped.
Yeah, you saw The Last Picture Show.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. Yes, I saw The Last Picture Show, and so having gone from that into this, I was very surprised by what kind of movie this was by comparison.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're completely different styles of movie because, that is more kind of like a commentary on, a bygone age, a little bit of coming of age. It's, an adaptation of a novel, definitely a different tone than this. And this is a straight up, like I said, screwball comedy. It is silly and ridiculous, and just about every line is a joke. Like, it's just, you comparing the two of those, it's definitely completely different tones. I will say, I'm going to double check, but I think this is the film that he followed up, The Last Picture Show with.
Okay, wow.
His Last Picture Show came out in 1971, and this came out the next year in 1972. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this came out the next year in 1972. This was actually the middle of a string of hits for him, because right after this he did Paper Moon, which was also a big one for him. I will also say this is the midst of his most successful collaboration with his wife at the time. Well, actually, no, at this point she would have been his ex-wife, Polly Platt, who was very influential, no matter how much he might want to, or he used to, try to discredit. She was very influential on his career. It's not hard to tell, because when she stopped working with him, she started working with James L. Brooks, who also had a big up in his career during the time that he was working with Polly Platt. So she was doing something. But I will say I've seen Last Picture Show. I have not seen Paper Moon. That's one of his that I've actually wanted to see and explore. But I will say both this and Paper Moon both have Ryan O'Neal, which we can talk about more in just a little bit. But so like, what were your thoughts about this movie?
I mean, I'm just the cast list, like again, going the movie, like it's like a cool like little introduction with the whole book flipping and the music and whatnot, sung by Barbara. And
yes,
like the whole time she's like flipping the pages, and I was like, hey, like, and Ryan O'Neal popped up, and I was like, oh man, oh god, oh man, and so and again, I need to go back and look at the cast list, because there was like a lot of other people that I was like, oh cool, I have not seen a movie with them in a long time. And then of course at the end it says, and introducing Madeline Kahn, and I was like, okay, I'm in. I actually did
and I mean this was her feature debut. She'd done I think like a short before this.
Yes.
But before this she hadn't done any television. She had only done theater. So this was her first feature film. And
she
I
has a strong
mean,
presence.
talk about a gift. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, if this film did nothing else than give cinema Madeline Kahn, it did its job.
Yeah,
You know,
if you had not told me that she was introduced in this movie, that this like was her feature debut, like I would have just figured this is like right along the cusp of like her Mel Brooks heyday. Like again, like she looks roughly the same age, like she acts like her comedic timing is still on point. It's just yeah.
I think this was only a few years because didn't both Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein come out around 74?
I thought Blazing Saddles came out sooner. Yeah, Blazing Saddles was 74, which I thought was her
They're
debut
both 74. They're both the same year.
Oh wow. Okay, wow.
They're both the same
what
year.
A year. Okay.
Which is, I know, that's crazy, right? I mean, because those are like two of Brooks's best comedies ever, and they both came out in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, part of it was that Gene Wilder was writing Young Frankenstein when he was working on Blazing Saddles, and they just decided to work on it together. But the fact that they were able to, you know, do the turnaround that fast and get them both out that same year, that's insane.
Yeah, no kidding. Cool shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was actually looking into the opening credit sequence there too, not to get too in the nitty gritty just yet, but they actually did. That was actually an actual book that they created with like a hand flipping through it, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. I mean the production, which I believe is, I think Polly Platt is credited with, is it set design? What is she credited with in this movie? She always did way more than she was credited for, but I think in this she's like production design. I know that she's the one that chose San Francisco for the setting, because I think initially it was set like in some Midwestern town or something like that.
Where is the set?
It's set in San Francisco.
That's what I thought.
Which,
okay,
you know, when it gets to, I mean, setting just with the chase scene alone.
Yeah.
Setting that in San Francisco was brilliant.
Well, I feel like San Francisco's streets itself are just like begging to be the setting for comedies. It just, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Especially like we said, a comedic chase scene, which in my opinion, this is one of the best, I think, chases, but definitely comedic chases that I've ever seen on film. Okay. It is just because there's so much setup and payoff. Like every other thing is like setting up a new joke, like especially the sequence with the glass pane.
Yeah, and the
where
cement.
the cement.
Which
that's a much shorter brilliant one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great, but just, you know, just all of this stuff, and I mean, like this movie just builds humor so well, and it employs so many different types of humor. You know, it employs, you know, there's physical humor. There's also, you know, a lot of there's puns and one-liners, and, you know, just some of my favorite like just deadpan comedy. Like, you know, I want to talk about the cast here because, you know, obviously we've got Barbra Streisand, who I think, you know, obviously most people know her as, you know, a singer, a musician, you know, all that kind of good stuff. But she definitely has had her triumphs when it has come to film and things like that. And this is her at, I think, her comedic best. This is definitely my favorite film that I've seen her in. Granted, there are definitely some, like I still haven't seen Funny Girl. There are some other, you know, big performances of her that I have not seen. I have, unfortunately, seen her version of A Star Is Born, which isn't horrible, but when you compare it to all the others, it's definitely the weak link, you know. But
well, you don't need to see Funny Girl. Like, it's a great film, but like in this movie, she actually happens to be a pretty funny girl. So I think you could probably skip that one if you felt like it.
Well, I mean, I will say when we get back around to the Academy, I think that was on the list.
Yes, it was. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So, you know, when we eventually get to that, I will be watching it. But yeah, this is, of the performances I have seen, this is my favorite of hers. And I think she just, and I think she shines, she sparkles, she just knows how to wield this type of humor.
Yeah. Like, sexy and funny is a very tough thing to juggle.
And she does it so well.
Yeah. It's not even a back and forth.
Simultaneously.
Exactly.
Yeah. She's so adept at it, and she's quick, she's fast, you know, she's quick, witty, all of that stuff. Even the physical humor that she's asked to do is great, you know. I mean, that's what makes her scenes between her and Ryan O'Neal so good, is that she is so quick, she is so fast, she is, you know, ahead of him every step of the way. But he, at the same time, and I do want to transition into talking about Ryan O'Neal, he is such a brilliant deadpan straight man in this. I think, I mean, granted, not enough people talk about this movie in general, but I think that Ryan O'Neal also doesn't get the flowers that he deserves for his, because, I mean,
perfect foil.
Yeah, as great as Barbara Streisand is, if he was not giving the opposite of what she is giving so well, it just wouldn't shine as well as it does.
Yeah, you know, similar with her, and the juggling of like different facets that make her performance like so like engaging in this film. Like with him, I feel like it's the combination of the straight man character, but like the straight man that's like the caveat of the straight man coerced into wackiness sort of thing. Like,
yes,
you have to pull it out of him, and you see that so many times utilized throughout the film to the film's benefit.
But there's also like a tendency to be like to take everything on face value. Occasionally he can be very literal. Like, honestly, one of my favorite jokes is between him and Madeline Kahn when she's trying to, you know, she's playing his fiance, Eunice Burns, and she is trying to talk to him about, you know, how he's going to introduce himself to this person who he's trying to get this grant from, because he's like a musicologist or whatever. And she's like, what are you going to say? He was like, well, I was probably just going to walk up and say, hi, Mr. Larrabee, I'm Howard. And she goes, no, you're not. And he goes, I'm not Howard. You know, it's just things like that. And then, you know, when she's like, you can't just walk up and say, hi, my name is Howard. Anyone can say that. Anyone. He goes, anyone named Howard. You know, just and you know, and like, number one, the dialogue is brilliant, but it's also the way in which it's delivered, which makes it land so hard. It's hilarious.
That's kind of like the biggest staple to me. Like, I think, like, if you're going to tackle a screwball comedy, which I wish they could start bringing those back, like at least try it again. I know it's but I
mean, this film needs to be studied.
I agree.
Like, it's so like, I mean, you know, screwball comedies are known for like the 30s and things like that, and they're great. But I think that this is a great update for the 70s of at least at that time, more modern version of the screwball comedy. And I think it incorporates everything that was great about the versions from the 30s and updates it for that time. And I think if you can
that's the thing.
take
That's the trick. That's
that
impressive about it.
lead of updating it for even more modern time, then you'd learn a lot.
And to that point, there's like what impresses me about this movie is that like it's one of the screwball comedies that I've seen. I can't call it modern because it was made in 72, but
Right.
what's appreciative is that it has that fast dialogue nature. I think is like the quintessential like the foundation of like a good screwball comedy. And like you were saying, I think a lot of people associate that with like, you know, your 30s and 40s films. His Girl Friday, I guess is like the gold standard.
His Girl Friday, Bringing Up Baby, Howard Hawks, a lot of that Howard Hawks.
Well, I even think back like if I had to say like the last screwball comedy, and I kind of I do like a little bit of bending with this one of I guess the term, but
sure,
I guess the last great one that I would say I'd seen would be Hudsucker Proxy, but even that is like a self-evidenced like throwback to that time period where they were like in their heyday. And so to see something like this, where it modernizes,
that's not one I've seen, so I couldn't speak to it.
But. It's good. It's Coen Brothers of all things, but like it's that very fast, snappy dialogue. But again, it's styled after like 40s and 50s, like vernacular. And so for this movie to tackle for its time, like that same type of approach, but do so in a way that doesn't feel antiquated, but feels modern and fresh, but also again invoking the quintessential descriptors of the genre that it's seeking to meet. It's very impressive that they're able to do that, because again, it's tricky to do.
Well, and I also think that Streisand's character is a tricky balance to strike, because she's basically a walking disaster.
Bugs Bunny.
But like everywhere she goes, she brings chaos. It hardly ever falls on her head. It just falls on the heads of everyone around her.
Yeah, it never phases her.
You know, yeah, and I mean, there are definitely turns in which she is extremely selfish and conceited and things like that. Yet at the same time, she remains likable.
Yeah,
you know,
she never lets it bring her down. Like her character and her morality is never brought down to a level. Her actions are never like done out of malice or malintent of any kind. Like you said, it's just natural chaos. It's not like an edge lord. She's an agent of chaos, but
she is, but unintentionally.
But again, it's like Bugs Bunny. Like Bugs Bunny, like isn't like strictly like an asshole just to be. I
would say Bugs Bunny can be a bit more intentional.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there was an obvious parallel because the film is called "What's Up, Doc?"
Yeah.
But I do think that there is a difference in intentionality between the two.
I guess I
see the similarities.
I think what the film was like, I guess when I say Bugs Bunny, I mean more so like what the film was trying to draw the comparison of like the comparisons between like a character who's more cynical than like by comparison, like a Daffy Duck to Bugs Bunny sort of dynamic. Like Bugs Bunny is going to be more often than not like the one who kind of reacts more, but also brings the chaos onto the more foil character, like in this case a Daffy or an Elmer, who's trying to get their goat first, who initiates the interaction. And anyway, not to get too into the weeds on that one, but
no, you're fine.
Yeah, but no, she it never brings her character down. There is you can argue a second act low point with the structure of the film, but again, it's never really at the cost of her character or compromising it. At most, you can even just argue that it just deepens the relationship on the romantic sense, like the dramatic side of things, which it does approach in this film to a little bit.
What point would you call the low point in this? You said the second act low point.
You know what? I'm thinking of it, and if I had to say, it kind of culminated just before, leading up until the scene where they're in that high rise and they kiss for the first time. But
okay, I
think maybe you could also even argue, and again, I think it kind of breaks the rule of a second act in this case, but I think you can also maybe even argue just before the plane when she takes off. But again, it's hard to call it that, because like I said, she's not a character who is too directly affected by that. It's more so their dynamic, like as a team,
right?
Like how
sure.
So I guess it's like how the chaos kind of gets to a point where it forces both of them to make a change for the better. And I guess if I had to pick, it would be that first kiss scene.
Okay.
How
I
about
will
you?
say, I mean, honestly, it's hard for me. Like, I think that anything that you could call slow is basically just the breath in between setting up the next joke,
Hmm.
because um, this film definitely has, you know, it has it in between, like, as things are going on, it's got joke on joke on joke on joke, but it also is setting up um set pieces to also provide their own humor. And uh because you have the introduction of the characters, then you have the musicology dinner, and then you have that night, and all the chaos that ensues in um, Howard's bedroom, and then
Hmm.
you've got the stuff at the Larrabee house the next day, and then obviously the chase going into the final, um, the end of the film.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, I think some of that setup can be a little slower, but it's never, in my opinion, to the film's detriment, because number one, they're setting up the next set piece, but they're also not letting up on the jokes. Like,
Yes.
even though they're setting up, okay, we're going to this next place, there's still going to be a Sylvia Louise, with a hyphen, ridiculous things like that. The hotel staff would like to give you a message. Goodbye. That's the whole message. We would like you to check out. When?
Hmm.
Yesterday. Just the little bitty things. And most of those are things that I've never even repeated, but I think that they're funny. There's just constant. So I don't see really a weak point in the film. I will say, though, I did want to mention, because you brought up this scene, um, basically at I guess they're doing construction at the top of the hotel.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, where they have the first kiss, and that whole thing is highlighted by her singing "As Time Goes By." I will say, if I had to pick one thing that they tried that did not land, it would be Streisand's bogey impression.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but I mean, they didn't
Um,
linger too long on it. I guess
because
the
it's
film
not
was pretty.
good. No,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, yeah. Um, but I will say, her version of "Time Goes By," and a lot of it is because it's the first version I heard. That's the one that I think of when I think of that song. I
Hmm.
don't think of the version from Casablanca. Number one, like I said, I heard it first. I watched this movie, probably about 5 to maybe even 10 years before I ever watched Casablanca.
Sure.
Obviously, I love Casablanca, and it's a classic, obviously, but I also think I prefer it because I prefer a slower arrangement to that song, because in Casablanca it's ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum, whereas her version is da 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 da, and I feel like that makes more sense with the song,
Hmm.
but that's me.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it also I think what the importance of that song in both respects in both films would be the
Mhm.
context, which I think even beyond just the making the homage to Casablanca, I think that the context of that particular song in this film has a much different meaning, obviously, than the one in Casablanca. And no matter which movie you
Sure.
see first or which one you like better as a whole, it's the intent behind them, like how it resonates with you in that moment of the film, is also an
Right.
important thing to consider too. So I don't think there's
Oh, I'm
it's an evil, so to speak, to pick that over Casablanca.
Yeah, no, I mean, we comparing the two stories. I mean, obviously, Casablanca is, we're seeing two lovers basically after, a separation and after they've already had their romance and stuff like that. Whereas in this point, we're seeing them, they've had troubles, but they haven't really started anything yet. So it's a completely different we're coming to it from two different places as far as the relationships go.
Right.
But yeah, let's see. The character I would like to talk about now. That is
yes, I do.
Which one are you thinking of?
Oh,
because I said it and then I realized there are two, and I was like, I don't know which one I want to start with.
Okay, so on 3, we're gonna both shout out the character you're thinking of, and if I'm right, I get $1.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Shaquille O'Neal.
Yes. I forgot Shaquille was in this movie.
How can you miss him?
I know, right? I mean, would he have been born at this time? Well, he might have been a child.
Even then, still probably as tall as Ryan O'Neal.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, honestly, I was between talking about Madeline Kahn as Eunice Burns or Kenneth Mars as Hugh Simon.
Okay. Which one did you pick? I didn't hear over Shaquille O'Neal.
I said Hugh.
All right, let's go. Yeah, let's start. Wait, me?
I mean, no,
sure.
You.
I was born.
No, I am you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's talk about you. So, tell me about your mother.
I mean, I will say, I think they employed that joke brilliantly.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's that character too, in particular, the judge character at the end who sells it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We'll get to him, but yeah.
You or me? No, I am you.
Yeah, fantastic scene.
It's great stuff. But I love Kenneth Mars in this film. He's just ridiculous and in a film that is already ridiculous and over the top, he is adding a new layer of ridiculousness.
It's like he's drugged or something.
It's great because we've got the whole set piece of the musicology conference, the dinner and everything. We've got one of my favorite jokes with Howard putting his name tag on, and everybody that walks up to him just says, "You're upside down," and he's like, "I have no idea what that means," kind of thing. But then you've got Kenneth Mars coming in with this ridiculous. I think he's supposed to be Croatian, or either that or just whatever he wants to be.
He's Croatian.
Yeah. But this ridiculous, over the top accent. I'm your Simon. Just ridiculous stuff, and just what he's saying on its own is funny, but he throws that accent on top of it, and it's just ridiculous. There's that bit because he's the one. Okay, so there's the whole setup with basically we didn't set up anything with these. I'm not going to go in depth with this plot, mostly because I think that people should watch it, and I don't want to spoil certain things, but there's a hilarious scene in a drugstore where Judy Maxwell, Barbara Streisand's character, and Howard Bannister, Ryan O'Neal's character, first meet. Basically at that point, for whatever reason, she decides that she wants to be part of this man's life and keeps inserting herself into his life and starts by impersonating his fiance, Madeline Kahn's character's Eunice Burns. And so by the time he gets there, she's already there. And, the problem is that everyone loves her. And so he doesn't want to say, even when he has the opportunity, when they're finally actually listening to him, he doesn't want to tell them that she's not his fiance, because it might hurt his chances at getting this grant. So Hugh is the first character to actually figure out that things aren't what they say they are.
Mhm.
And there's a scene where he goes to confront them, and he goes, I don't know who he is, but she is definitely not herself.
Mhm.
And it's brilliant. It's just so funny.
And even his exit is like just like super memorable for me with this, even though I just saw it a couple hours ago. But like he just like he's just like ranting and like about like how outraged he is. He just starts babbling about nothing. Like as he exits.
Guar and Norm. Oh, I love Guar and Norm. Yes, just all the just some great stuff.
Great in character exit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just phenomenal. And it's the accent is such a choice, but he sells it so well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, he's fantastic. Can we
Yeah.
talk about the judge?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we can talk about. So let's see. The Judge Maxwell, is played by Liam Dunn.
Yes.
Who is a character actor that I've seen in a few other things as well. He was in, let's see, Bonanza, Alias Smith and Jones, Mannix, Emergency, Gunsmoke. Let's see, what other films does it have? Oh, okay, yeah. I was about to say he's in Young Frankenstein. He's in Blazing Saddles. Yeah, I mean, this is a character that doesn't come in till the end. But basically after, all of this chaos has been caused, he is the one that's brought in to basically sort it out, because this chase has destroyed property. It has just done all sorts of things. And so, of course, they have to bring in, the legal system in order to sort it out. And he's the one.
By that point, I was like, it took him long enough. Like for a while, I thought I was like watching like Cobra Kai or something. I was like, are the cops even in this universe?
Yeah,
but,
I know, right?
They finally show up and they go like it might be one of my favorite scenes in the film, the courtroom scene. And even
because like he's not just the judge that has been basically this has fallen into his courtroom, because I guess it's just his jurisdiction for the the crimes that have been committed. And even before they show up, you can tell that this guy is like, he's done. He just wants to retire and sleep.
Yeah.
Like that would be perfect for him. And he gets thrown in the middle of this mess and has to try to sort it out. And is the perfect put upon character. And he's great.
It even highlights more how put upon and why he's so like exhausted of like life, like based on like how the scene ends, like the revelation you get at the ending with his connection to one of the other characters. It's like, okay, no, that makes sense why you're like this. Like it absolutely makes sense why you're so like just beaten down.
It does make sense. Yeah,
and it's like you can't even like call him like a stern judge or like a mean judge or a goofy judge like that. You see like in so many comedies, like there's like so characterized, but him, it's just like he's almost sympathetic. He just wants to do his job and just go home. And so like to the point where he's like, no, just please don't repeat anything. Just he's just trying to understand what these crazy people are coming to him talking about, because which is again understandable, because it's an insane thing to have to like sum up to like someone who is outside of the events.
Oh yes. Oh,
and again, there's so many conventional.
I just want to know the least possible to get this sorted out. Yes.
And there's so many like almost like Abbott and Costello type jokes being told, but again, it feels fresh. It's like just again based on the delivery and like the snappiness and the way it's communicated in the modern vernacular. It's super fun scene.
Well, I mean, it's because Ryan O'Neal's character Howard ends up being the one tasked with explaining all of this to him. And there's a point at which, like, several times he starts getting in the weeds, and the judge just keeps going, I want to skip this part. I want to skip this part too.
It's like my therapist when my ADHD pops up.
Yeah, there's a point at which he asked the judge, he was like, does that make sense? And he's just like, no, but it's consistent. It's great.
Mm-hmm. And again, even the scene ends with like a piece of like physical comedy, which is again just all right, icing on the cake. Yeah, and like I said, not to get too back at like the generality, but like the way this movie balances its physical comedy and snappiness of like dialogue and comedic timing in the spoken word, it's a very good, like I couldn't tell you which one of the two I preferred the execution of more in this movie, between the comedic timing of the dialogue and the physical stuff.
Yeah. This film is a perfect example of balance, because like you said, it balances its types of comedy, it balances tone, it balances likability. It is a high wire act, this whole film, and it does it beautifully.
Yeah.
Speaking of a character that would in some hands be easy to dislike, but because it's played by the wonderful Madeline Kahn, it just, the character of Eunice Burns, who is playing who is Howard's fiance at the beginning of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say that they have a very interesting relationship, because even admittedly in one of the earlier scenes, she's talking to him, and she's just like, well, what did you do to encourage that woman, Howard? He's just like, I don't know. And he's like, well, she's like, well, you are a man. And he goes, yes, I know. She goes, and she is a woman. And she's like, yes, I know. And she's like, much the way that I am a woman. He just goes, well, I don't really think of you as a woman, Eunice. I think of you as Eunice.
Yeah, no, she is overtly overbearing throughout the film. And it not only
in a brilliant way. I mean, the very first scene, she is like, you needed to do this. Yes, Eunice. You need to do this. Yes, Eunice. And it goes to the point where she looks at the cab driver, and she goes, put these in the car. And he just goes, yes, Eunice. It's just it's this great setup.
Yeah, and it never really brings her down either. Similar to like the Barbara Streisand character, like is she, again, she obviously is like has her setbacks like in terms of the plot, but like she's never like quote unquote defeated. She never is.
No.
You never really feel bad for her at any point, but you also don't feel like she deserves like what comes to her. It's just
no. Well, and she's definitely made to look more dowdy than Madeline Kahn is, because I mean,
it's a contrast.
You see her you see her
she's 2 cynical, years later, she's bossy, and she's like controlling. Yes,
you see her 2 years later in the Mel Brooks films, and Madeline Kahn was a very attractive woman, but in this she's made to look like the more matronly compared to Barbara Streisand. There's just those little juxtapositions, and like I said, I think that it would be easy to villainize this character, especially at that time. Unfortunately, it was kind of the kind of just what was done a lot with women. They were either sexy, or they were just the nagging wife, and she's definitely put in that box, but she makes the character much more interesting than that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Again, she's very constant with her like energy, even when similarly like to like the Ryan O'Neal and the Barbara Streisand character, like she maintains that, and that her own type of a bravado, no matter what's happening around her.
I'm going to count.
Exactly. Like whether if you like watch like the scene of like her, like, just like her introduction scene, for example, when you can argue she should be the calmest, like when she's in the back of the cab, versus like versus like when she's like getting dragged out of like the corporate boardroom when she's when she's outed for not being his fiance.
Right.
Same energy,
Yeah.
same type of delivery, like
Yeah.
same type of like aggression and annoyance, and it's really funny to see like how that can be so versatile across the different scenarios that she's put in.
Yeah. Honestly, two of my, and I will say one of the jokes really doesn't have a whole lot to do with her, but one of them definitely does depend on her delivery. But there's the one where, you know, the suitcases have been moved around and the hotel concierge has come to basically try to retrieve one because he's after jewels or whatever. And so he's just trying to get her out of the main space in the room, and he's just like, you know, I need to search your room because somebody has lost something. And she's just like, well, I don't know how it could be in here unless it crawled in under its own power. And he goes, exactly, somebody has lost their pet snake. And of course she starts to freak out, and he's like, calm yourself. May I suggest that you lock yourself in the bathroom while I search your room? And she's just like, well, what is it if it's in there? And he goes, oh, it won't be, because snakes, as you know, live in mortal fear of tile. You know, it's just absolutely ridiculous. She buys it, you know, but then there's, you know, later on when she goes into Howard's room, basically, you know, after a lot has happened, and Judy has started taking a bath, then was interrupted and is out of the bath and is now actually on the balcony. Or not actually on the balcony, she's on a ledge. Yes. But Howard is basically just trying to get rid of Eunice, and Eunice is going through the room. She looks in the bathroom and sees the bath. She goes, what's with the bath? And he goes, I was going to take a bath. And she goes, since when did you take bubble baths? And he goes, it came out of the faucet that way, Eunice.
Oh yeah. And then they followed up like why are your rocks in here?
I don't know.
I
wish I did.
Yes.
I don't. Yes.
It's like you can explain like the bathtub situation, but you can't just say like
exfoliation. Eunice.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that funny shit.
Yeah. Some great stuff. But yeah, let's see. I mean, who else? I mean, I will say, you know, there's not a whole lot to say about him, but Austin Pendleton as Frederick Larrabee, who
he's got one of my favorite lines in the movie. I'm gonna look it up.
Which is that?
Keep talking about, because I want to look up so I do it justice. But
sure. Is it his end to
Hugh?
His
dismissal.
Oh, I love that.
I want to use that shit.
So good. I will. Yeah, it's great. Honestly, there was a point at which in movie battles I wanted to have somebody say that to the Hammer, but I couldn't remember, and I think I never did look it up exactly.
It's like that speech from, it's like that monologue from like Billy Madison of its time, like where like the game show, like the trivia guy is like, what you just said is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yes.
Yeah, here it is.
Great.
Yeah. Hugh, you're a bad loser. You're a plagiarist and you're nasty. I don't like you and I want you to go away.
Yes. You're nasty. I don't like you, and I want you to go away.
And it's so snappy and like just how like it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a huge part, but I think that number one, the only other thing 100% that I remember Austin, like I've definitely seen Austin Pendleton in a few other things, but the only other thing that I know off the top of my head that I've seen him in is he's Max in the Muppet movie. Doc Hopper's little side, right hand man kind of thing. And I mean, in this, this came out earlier, and this is obviously different because he's the one in charge. And what I find interesting is he's got this kind of like nerdiness to him, but he also has this like authority to him that it's like, okay, yes, I could see him in charge of a music foundation. Yeah. There's a bit that I do, I love kind of the playfulness that he has with Streisand as as she ends up asking her to call him Burnsy.
Where's
I love all of that a little bit, but one of my favorite bits is when everybody is at his house and things have already started like going sideways. But then some guy comes in and he goes, somebody starts waving guns in the air, and he's just like, "What are you doing? You can't come in here." Wait, like he just starts standing like he's got absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And he just starts standing up to this guy, but it's like in the most impotent way possible.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still just like, he's like, this is unacceptable. Like, it's like, this is bad manners. You can't do that. This is not how this is done. It's just so funny to me.
Yeah, no, I dug that character quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, honestly, like I could go on just spouting lines for the rest of the time, but is there anything else in particular that you wanted to talk about in terms of this film?
Yeah, I would say kind of circles back to the more physical stuff going on. Not only is the physical comedy and like the set pieces and actiony, like I guess chase scenes, like super well done in terms of comedy, but the stunt work in this movie is also really impressive when you look at all the near misses when it comes to especially the automobile like stunt work. Like there's so many shots, even just the beginning, like where someone almost gets hit by a car. It comes like it's like a foot distance between like an extra and like a car or two other cars. The way they timed and shot all that was very impressive, like in how close and well executed it was. It's very tight.
Yeah. The timing of this film in every, like, obviously the jokes, but the physical comedy and just, their setup and payoff in every aspect of this film is masterful and brilliant. Like it's just so good. I do want to throw out a couple of things that I noticed. Number one, a young Randy Quaid is in this film. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't. No.
Yes, he is one of the guys at the banquet. At the table, he's actually the one that brings Larrabee and that whole party to the table.
Another one of my favorite scenes in the film. We all just start talking under the table, and then
Root, what are you serving at table one?
Yeah, holy shit, that is Randy Quaid.
What kind of wine are you serving at table one? Yeah, no, it's great. But also as the cop that brings them into the courthouse, did you notice who that was? Emmett Walsh.
What?
Emmett Walsh, who I actually didn't know passed last year. I thought he was still with us, but apparently he passed early last year. But yeah, he is the arresting officer.
Wow.
In the courtroom scene.
No shit.
Yeah.
I'm looking him up as a kid. He had to have done stuff before this.
Who? Emmett Walsh or Randy Quaid?
Yeah, it just seems like such a small part.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a small part. It looks like the first thing that he was in Midnight Cowboy in 1969.
Okay, nice.
And Little Big Man in 1970. I don't know if those were his first films or if he was in anything before that. Those are just the first.
Yeah.
Okay, so there were a few, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of his earlier roles. Because 1969 is when he first started appearing in film.
Yeah, earliest thing I saw was Little Big Man.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that is a I think I heard recently, and I had forgotten this, Ebert had a rule. It was the Walsh Stanton rule. Any film that featured Harry Dean Stanton or Emmett Walsh couldn't be all bad. Like there are very few stinkers that feature one of those two actors.
Yeah. Okay. I call it the Bill Paxton rule myself, but I can see that.
Sure.
Yeah. I was also looking at his IMDb. It's funny that same year he came out with a movie alongside What's Up Doc called Get to Know Your Rabbit.
That is funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
How about that?
Yeah.
I guess regarding the film, one more last point of praise I wanted to say, like, was also just I thought the way it was shot also lended itself very well with the comedy. We talked about the table scene where they all duck their heads in the table and just start having a conversation, whatever. And you get that wide shot where like someone, like, I think it's Madeline Kahn's character enters and like you see like what they're all doing and just how it looks from like from someone outside of that, and it looks so silly, but the itself is just perfect because you just see like all the other people gathered around, like, at their respective tables, just enjoying conversation, just kind of on their own, not paying any attention to this weird shit happening behind them. That made me laugh.
Yeah. Vocal reverberation under spinal pressure. Yeah. VRUSP. Oh, I think I read a monograph on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Funny shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way that she just so quickly speaks like she knows what she's talking about. It's just, brilliant stuff. All right. Well, I mean, I will say there were some questions that we were asking early on that I think we've dropped some of, but I will say, it does sound to me like you enjoyed.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that shit. Yeah. I also, in fairness, I feel like the past couple movies we've seen have been very, very new, and so it's hard to say, like, are you disappointed? Like, do you wish you could have seen this at a different point? It's like 3 months ago, sure.
Right.
What were our questions? Shit.
We definitely always asked, if we enjoyed it, which it sounds like you did.
Yeah, I definitely did.
And yeah, it was, do you wish you had seen this at an earlier time?
Yeah, I would say so. I think this is the kind of movie that you can enjoy at a lot of walks of life. I don't think that there's really
like I said, I was first introduced to it as a kid.
Yeah.
This has been one of my favorite movies the majority of my life.
Yeah, I can see this being like the kind of movie like I could grow up enjoying, like in the car on like a long family drive or something like that. Yeah.
But at the same time, I will say part of my enjoyment is getting to introduce people to it. Getting the opportunity to share it with somebody that hasn't seen it. But it's also, we talked about comfort films earlier on. This is definitely one of those comfort films. Last year I was going through a really tough situation, and I just decided to put this on, and it was the first time in days that I'd been able to laugh. So just a really, it's a great film for me.
Yeah, no, I'm thoroughly happy that I watched this one. Good pick. I definitely will be watching this one again, and probably showing it to some more people to spread the word. Because I'm glad that I'm kind of like doing this like Bogdanovich exploration too as we go, just because I feel like between this and The Last Picture Show, the only two of his movies that I believe I've seen, it just kind of makes me like wonder, all right, well, what's this guy going to pull out of his hat next? Because these movies are so starkly different in terms of tone and presentation that it really does kind of make me excited for something new.
Yeah. And I think that like Paper Moon, which came out after this, I think it's not going to be, it's a different tone than Last Picture Show, but it's a little bit more, because it's like about a father, a down on his luck father who's like raising his kid.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So
yeah, I agree.
I think it's, a little bit more serious in tone, but, I think there is a bit more of a lightness to it. I do want to mention one of my favorite jokes in this film before we move forward. So at the end of the movie, basically they just they end up on the same plane together, going back to Howard's hometown or home state of Iowa. And basically Howard admits that he's in love with Judy and all this kind of stuff. And he apologizes for the way that he spoke to her or whatever. And she just looks at him and she goes, "Love means never having to say you're sorry," and like flutters her eyelashes. And then he responds by saying, "That's the dumbest thing I ever heard." And she just says, "Yeah," and then kisses him again. Do you know what that's a reference to?
I know. I do. I don't remember.
So it is a direct reference to Ryan O'Neal's previous hit film, actually, Love Story.
Okay.
Which basically, if you've ever heard
you're right.
the term, if you've ever heard the term Ally McGraw disease, that's where that came from, was Love Story, because Ally McGraw plays Ryan O'Neal's love interest in that, and she just mysteriously gets ill and just somehow keeps getting more beautiful as she's dying. And it's just kind of a nondescript, it's just that nondescript disease. It's just she's dying. So I don't know that they use the term so much anymore, but after that, anytime a character would just randomly get fatally ill with no like reason or anything like that, they just called it Ally McGraw disease.
Okay.
But the main, I actually think the tagline for that movie was "Love means never having to say you're sorry."
Yeah, and I think it still works if you don't get the connection.
I think it 100% does,
because everyone's heard that
but
line.
It's even funnier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's even funnier when you get the fact that he was commenting on, a huge hit from just 2 years ago.
Yeah. That's a fun little meta joke. Yeah, I dig that.
Yeah.
And they got a good way to end the movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the last line spoken is that reference. And that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. It's great. Well, at least between the characters, the actual last line is from the Bugs Bunny short that they're watching on the plane. What's up, Doc? But all right. Well, I think I will go ahead now and let people know how they can get into contact with us. So, of course, you can contact us on our socials at the Flying Cow Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, email at the Flying Cow Pod at the Flying Cow Pod at gmail.com, and let us know what you're thinking. We are getting pretty close to wrapping up our first season. And we're going to be, making some changes. Like I said before, the main idea of the podcast is going to remain the same, but we're just going to be adding some things to, we think, make it more fun. We'll see. But feel free to, maybe you have a film that you think that we haven't seen that you would like to suggest we take a look at. Drop that wherever you want, where we can see it. Let us know. But Jack, anything you want people to know about?
I'm so close to being able to plug something big, but I can't just yet. Granted,
let me guess, you're going to be on the next season of Taskmaster.
What? No, they haven't. No, I've actually been asking my agent. Like, I asked him actually a couple weeks ago. I was like, "Is there going to be like a Loki season 3?" Because I haven't heard much buzz about it. But I mean, right. I don't know if you saw me in that season, but like I'm pretty sure my character.
I was actually going to ask you, and Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can tell us what episode are you on, because my nephew was actually talking about that recently, and I never watched season 2, but I definitely wanted to see your episode.
I'm a little bit nervous to say this, but because I didn't watch all of season 2 myself.
Yeah, no, I get it. Hey, you didn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to blow you up, but
No,
you, between us as friends, did not like the first season.
No.
So, I'm not surprised that you didn't watch the whole second season.
it's not even that. Like, I mean, again, I probably shouldn't say this, but fuck it. I'm not really into Marvel anymore. It's not.
No,
For professional sake, I'm going to say like
really,
it's not because it's not for any particular reason, but I just feel like our podcast is kind of explored.
It's
There's a lot of
overload.
content. Well, there's just a wealth of content
Yeah.
that came before and
Yes.
around us that I also
Yes.
feels like deserves time. So.
Yeah. There's so much else. And yeah, even a few things that I've been like, ooh, that sounds good. I just haven't had the time to get to.
Yeah, exactly. But if you did like season 2 of Loki, great. Look out for me. I played soft Loki. Hopefully they'll bring me back for season 3, but who knows?
Yeah. Do you know what episode you're in?
I don't.
Or have you not seen it? You don't? Okay. I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. But
No, you're fine.
anyway, like I said, that so you can find me on that. But yeah, plug wise, I got something coming in the, but it's also hard to say because I'm not sure when this is going to air.
Sure.
But
No,
I will for sure have something in the foreseeable future of this podcast. There may be an earlier announcement I can make depending on how things time out. But for now, just stay tuned.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, Jack, the floor is yours, sir, because it is your turn to choose a movie for me. And obviously the bar has been set pretty high. I'm just saying.
And that's the thing. It's like with this being our coming to the end of our season, there's a lot of criteria that I'm trying to meet. One, I obviously don't want to do like a wacky comedy, which I've got a couple, but again, just too soon for that given this movie.
Sure.
I don't want to go into a long drawn out ramble like I did for the last movie, much less pick an animated or like a very existential drama like the last movie was.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my list now, and I've kind of narrowed it down to 2. And geez, it's hard.
Do you want me to pick?
No, well,
no.
See, hold on. I'm just looking over.
I've made you pick your own film before.
I gotta make sure. I gotta walk away feeling good about this. That's all it is for me. So I'm gonna go ahead. Oh yeah, okay. You know what? Fine. For this one, I think So I'm gonna go with a comedy on this one, a different type of comedy, depending on how you watch it. For my final pick of this season, I'm going to be picking. Let me see what year this came out. This is like that scene. This is like the Oscars when Lucille Ball like struggled to find her glasses reading out the winner. For my pick, our next episode is going to be covering the 2019 film, comedy crime film, The Death of Dick Long.
Okay.
Now I will preface 2 things before we end the recording. Clay and anyone who hasn't seen this or knows much about it, go into this movie as blind as you possibly can.
Okay.
It is crucial. It is fundamental. You go in as blind as possible before watching this movie. If you know,
am I going to be cursing you after this, Jack?
I don't believe. No, I genuinely think this is a fantastic film. I think most people do, but it is directed by half of the Daniels, who were famous most recently.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's also
everything everywhere all at once. Okay.
Yeah. Daniel Scheinert, I believe, is his name. So
yeah,
give it a watch again, as blind as possible. I cannot stress that enough, and I hope you enjoy the experience.
Oh, that sounds ominous.
Till next time, folks.
Okay. All right. Well, yes, we will be back discussing whatever that is. But until that time, Moo.